What day is it? Oh, it's Wednesday. Welcome back to the Pirate Ragnar channel. My name is Alistair, and today we're going to dig into actually pulling the forks off of mauls because the fork seals have come in. The only thing that I'm actually missing right now is I'm missing the kind of syringe that makes it a lot easier to actually fill them back up, but Amazon is supposed to deliver that on Monday, so I think I should just go ahead, pull the forks off. We can pull them apart, and I can kind of show you guys the process for installing the new fork seals and getting it all reassembled. I'm also going to be replacing the end. Oh, what I do with it? It's here somewhere. I will find it. I want to know what I did with it before we get any further. Ah, here. So we'll replace this bit, and I think some of the other parts that are still on the second set of forks that I have, because all the bits and bobs for the air assist on the top of the forks on mauls are kind of, most of the corners are rounded, most of which was done before I got her, but I've definitely contributed to the problem because they were already rounded and it's really, really easy to make it worse. So I think since I'm going to be reassembling them anyway for probably the third time, I might as well just replace all the hardware at the top since I have hardware that's in slightly better condition. So I need to pull some of the extra bits off of the old forks, and we need to dismantle the front end on mauls. Then we can start working on actually replacing the fork seals themselves. Come Monday, I'll get the syringe. That makes it so much easier to actually fill up the correct amount of fork oil for each tube. I ordered on Amazon this time because I in Squamish I can't really seem to find it. The Lord Co here, which is basically the O'Reilly's or something equivalent to that wherever you live, is kind of useless for a lot of those maintenance tools. They sell fork oil, but they don't sell fork seals. They won't even order them in for you. So I'm not super sure why they even sell the fork oil here. But they do, and they certainly don't have anything for measuring how much of any kind of liquid you're using. Literally, they don't even have a measuring cup or a funnel with a measurement amount on the side or anything like that. So it seems a little silly for an auto parts place, but what do I know? Long story short, let's dig into it and see what kind of issues I actually run into that I wasn't expecting. All right, there we go. Now I just need to take the entire front apart. So just to give a basic explanation of what needs to happen here. So I'm taking the handlebars off, because once the handlebars are off, then you'll notice that the handlebars are directly above the forks. So in order for me to really kind of get everything out, the handlebars are going to need to come off. Dash here is going to have to come off. It's just technically I think you can get away, you know, if I had the room to get down in here and to take off the air assist and everything, then I'd still probably run into issues trying to get the forks out through the bottom if I'm not able to take off absolutely every fitting. So those are nearly impossible to get at now with the way that the dash has been switched around. For those of you that don't know, these are actually facing the wrong direction right now. So normally these face backwards and the handlebars are a bit further this way when the bike was set up for someone not my size. So it's been changed around quite a bit in order to kind of work with my body size and all that kind of stuff. So one thing I can't forget is that I do need to reattach this temporarily. I'm going to be taking the handlebars off, and they don't always sit flat. So, oh, that's right. I think that's one of the problems I ran into, is there's a bit of a screw in there. I'm forgetting all the issues that I ran into. So, that screw needs to be extracted. Shit. Which means I'm going to have to take this off completely, it looks like. I didn't even think of that. I may need to use the other one. I completely forgot about that. That's not good. Without it actually being under a lot of pressure, I can probably get away with just having the one screw holding it down. So we'll put this guy back in. Then the handlebars need to come off. Then I need to get in behind here and remove the dash. That's what I'm working on right now. As you can see, we've kind of loosened the top of this a little bit. I was able to loosen this enough that I think we'll be able to kind of finger it off here. Almost. Can you see that? Alright. So that's one end of the air assist disconnected. Alright, so I can pull that out of the way, and that means this side can come off. And now we've got a lot more wiggle room in here. So, as I was saying, this, you can see, these are very rounded, and they have to come off in order for the forks to come out, because the forks can't come out this way, and obviously that's in the way. And same thing on this side, that one needs to come off right there, which is certainly a lot easier because it's exposed. So I will take that guy off and completely remove the air assist line, and then it's a matter of really getting in there and removing that one properly. The other thing I want to replace is this guy here, because that is also rounded quite badly. If we look, you can see that this actually looks a lot better. It's not rounded at all. So we'll try and take this guy off and put it over there, and then all the other fittings are attached to the air assist line that I showed you guys inside. So that's where we're at. All right. So there's the air assist stuff off right there, and the top of our forks are now fully exposed properly, aside from all these bloody wires and cables. Okay, so the forks are off. As you can see, I'm going to get the fork oil to come out of this just because it's easy, I suppose. But technically, this is also the drain plug right there. I'm going to loosen that guy, and then it will freely pour out of here. Fork oil does not smell particularly good. I'll give it that. Any secret? Alright. So I will get get another container and the air compressor to really blow those out, because I am going to have to dismantle. Am I? No, I guess. Yeah, of course I do. For a second there I was thinking I was just changing the fork oil. When I use the compressor to blow out more, it's going to splatter quite a lot more. So I want a container I can put them down into, rather than just a coffee cup that it's hovering over. And it's going to be noisy and loud, and so I don't know. We'll see if I record it.
Day 2.
Alright, it's another day. What we've managed to do is break out the compressor, blow out at least a little bit of the... Still going to be more oil in them, but at this point at least I know it's not going to just start spilling out when I accidentally compress them a little bit on the bench or anything inside. I may actually open them up out here, again, just to make sure that I don't have to explain to Chelsea why suddenly there is a whole bunch of oil that I need to clean up inside. The easiest way to hold the forks still and then actually get the caps off is to put them back in the triple trees. You could potentially damage them if you're trying to grip them with anything other than the triple trees, which are designed to hold the forks. So I'm going to pop each fork one at a time back into the one side of the triple tree, tighten them down a little bit, and then we'll loosen the top off, and then I'll show you my kind of preferred way to make sure that the spring doesn't go boing all over the place on you. That's what we're doing next. Yeah, of course. So try and get them up a little bit higher than they were before, which I should be able to do pretty easily. I'm just going to put some weight on the back of the bike there, make sure we don't have any kind of mishap. So that's now not going to move anywhere. All right. I'm going to make sure they're finger loose. That one's going up much easier. So maybe I can show the process that I was talking about here for this one, just because it'll be pretty easy to show above the triple trees. Can we actually see that? A little blown out. So I'm not working in the sun. I don't want to work in the sun. And I'm also shooting towards the sun. So here's the kind of catch-22 part of all this. There's springs in here. Usually spring, sometimes springs. But once you get to that very last thread and you take this guy off, it's going to want to just go boink. What I found as a good way to kind of protect myself from losing any parts and that kind of thing is I'll just take a cloth, any kind of cloth, like a rag that I'm working with, and I'll put it over the piece. You know, this is why you kind of have to wait till you at least have it finger loose, because then I'm basically going to hold the rag down here. So I'll keep twisting this off. The rag is going to catch that spring as it loosens up. See, there it goes. Now everything is still contained. I haven't had anything go shooting off on me. And as I take this out, you'll see, ta-da! So there's my cap, and we've got one spring, and there's actually several more. I think this one actually has 3 springs in total. So there's a top spring. I should remember that, but we'll find out the rest of it once we get inside. What I'm gonna do is pull this guy off and just kind of hold that spring in place, and then go dump any remaining oil that's in here out. And then we'll do the same thing for the second. Okie dokie. So now we're in the comfort of inside where it's not as sweltering. I'm way too cheap to run any kind of air conditioning, so we don't have air conditioning. That said, it's really, really, really hot outside, and I'm glad that I have somewhere inside that I can work on this, even though I don't have a garage. The standing condition, of course, is just that I don't absolutely destroy the inside. I don't get everything really, really dirty, and that I don't bring in parts that smell real bad. But I'm going to do the forks in here anyway. I'll just try and be quick before Chelsea gets home. We have both forks here. So these are the top springs, and then I'll show you guys the rest of the insides. I'm going to dismantle each of the forks real quick. Of course, make sure that I keep track of which parts go where. And then it's a matter of taking these fork seals, dust covers and fork seals out and replacing them with the correct parts. And that's it. It's actually a pretty easy job. The most intimidating part about it is that you have to dismantle your forks completely. So if it's something you've never done, or you've never watched somebody else do it, then it can be a little intimidating. It feels like a really, really hard job. If you don't have like a climber manual or something similar that's going to really show you how everything is put together, then I strongly recommend you either record yourself or take very specific note about which order parts went in and which direction those parts were facing. Sometimes the direction of the spring is important, especially if the spring is tapered in any way, or if the spring has a section that's thicker, like thicker coils than others. Typically, I don't think I've seen any on the old Hondas. Usually the springs, if they do have multiple spring densities, then they come as separate springs. So you just want to make sure that you know how everything gets reassembled. There's also some other bits that I'll show you towards the bottom. I think they're plastic in here, because again, your forks don't actually get hot. That's not something that you really have to worry about. So quite often the parts inside can be plastic, the little dampeners at the bottom. So just, again, make sure that you understand how everything gets taken apart so that you can reassemble it with relative ease. But that's it. Without, wasting any more time, let me set the camera up on a tripod so that you guys can see what's going on, and I'll pull these forks apart. Then we'll start working on the fork seals themselves. Helps if you get gloves that actually fit you. We have ones that fit both Chelsea and I. They're a little small. Makes the webbing of my fingers look funny. This spring actually comes in here at the top. So I've taken those out just because as soon as there's no pressure on the top pushing it down, they kind of stick out the top anyway. But you'll also notice that I'm able to compress this shock now. And as I do that, the next spring is going to become visible. And there's actually, in this case, a little washer spacer. And then I'm going to press that out a little bit more. And I can pull out this next spring, and you can see there is still some oil. pour out any remaining fork oil. There's going to be more fork oil in there. It's actually quite difficult to get it all out, at least I find in my experience. We'll work through it. So you'll notice that there's an Allen bolt, a bolt in here that's going to use an Allen key. I believe it's 6 mil. In this case, get out your trusty Allen keys here. Definitely Japanese, so it's going to be metric. The other one's a little bit trickier, simply because it has a solid bottom for holding the axle. So you have to get through it that way. So that one might be a little bit trickier to get undone. But we'll start with this guy here. There's smarter ways of doing this. For example, if I'd left these still attached together with the fender, then they're not going to move around on me. Of course, I didn't do that. So what we're going to do instead is position this in a way, something like this, hopefully. So I'm just going to rest this on the tabletop and try and use pressure pushing down, this being wedged, and then try and twist with my hands to get that to loosen. There we go. Perfect. Now what this is going to do is it's going to release all of the rest of the stuff on the inside that's being held in. So if I'm applying pressure down on the top of it by reinserting the spring. Alright, so as you can see, the bolt has loosened completely, so I can actually remove it. So that bolt comes out. Alright, so I'm going to take the fork seal out, the dust cover, I mean. Just because obviously if I was going to plan to reuse these dust covers, I would not be doing this. We have new dust covers. Totally reasonable practice in that case. Old dust cover done. And this one is not that bad. It was this one, as you can see, with all this buildup here. This was the one that was leaking really badly. So we're working on the nicer one right now. So the next step really is to remove that captive washer, the
I don't know.
My brain is not working ever anymore. These aren't great ones because they're old and kind of shitty, but they work. Sometimes these captive washers is what I'm going to refer to it until I can figure out the actual name. It can be a little bit of a bitch to get out. And if you have any plastic tools, that's best to use along the forks because you really don't want to scratch your forks, the tubes themselves. Yeah. You also have to be careful you don't break it because the kits I don't think come with replacement of those. I don't see those in there at all. So let's not break them, shall we? Make sure that the back doesn't go back down, piece of plastic. Then I can go back to the actual part that you can grab onto and loosen it very quickly. So there we go. And so this is what I get for overthinking everything. I'm almost positive we did not need to take this guy out because I don't actually need to take the entire inside out. I just want to replace the seal. That said, it probably wouldn't hurt that I pull the tube out and do the old aluminum foil trick to kind of make it as smooth as possible. I'm going to go ahead and show, at least on this one, the whole process. But if you're just replacing your fork seals, you know, everything else is good. There's not really a need to take the internal mechanisms of here out. The trick that I've always used for actually removing the seal, you just slam this up kind of as hard as you can because it's going to just knock the fork seal out. So you just don't want to then slam the fork down, especially if you've detached everything down here, because things are moving around in there and you don't want to break anything. So I'm not going all the way back down with this, but I am bringing it up as hard as I can. There we go. Just like in the wheel bearing video, these guys we're going to keep because once we are reassembling everything, once we clean all of this out, get everything spick and span the way we want to, get it cleaned up. Let's say you've put your new fork seal on. This is on there. You're putting your new fork seal down. If you just try and like hammer it down or press it down with some kind of foreign object, it's potentially going to deform it. Whereas if you turn it around, so don't try and use it this way, but put the top back down so that the top of this one is facing the top of the new one. Then you can take something else, for example, something like this that fits around, and you can smack away, and you have multiple buffers between the new piece that you want to keep in good condition and the action that you're doing to smack it down. So this is also very convenient. You can use a piece of PVC pipe, anything that really fits with not much wiggle. This is kind of the inside assembly right here. Yes. Anyway, we won't get into that. This isn't a how it works video. So the next step is to do the same thing with this guy. So we can dismantle it completely and then make sure that we can get everything cleaned up properly. Once it's all cleaned and all the parts are organized properly, then we get to reassemble it. And this will probably be worth watching just to see how much dirtier this one will be. And as you can see here, there's just a pool of oil inside between the dust cover and the fork seal. So it's not doing a terribly good job sealing anymore, is the moral of that story. That is the forks completely disassembled. So the next step really is getting everything cleaned up, which I think is going to take a little bit longer if I'm doing it right than the time that I might have to commit to this project before I want to get this video up. So let's just say that this particular Wrenching Wednesday video is how to dismantle your forks. And then we'll come back next week and we will reassemble the forks and properly fill them up and get them back on the bike. So thank you very much for joining me here on the Pirate Ragnar channel. If you guys have any questions or anything that I should have done differently, any suggestions, please comment down below. If you are liking the content that you're seeing on the channel, remember to hit that subscribe button, just like every YouTuber asks you to do. It really does help, though. It gets the videos out there in front of more people. You guys are an awesome crowd. I really, really enjoy making these videos. It's just all the more rewarding knowing that there's somebody actually watching it. So I appreciate you. Thank you very, very much. And I will see you guys next week.